let's talk about something that can be, well, a pretty profound and often frustrating experience. We're going to explore the burden of deep thinking and why there's this quiet resistance when we try to bring a little clarity into a very complex world.
So let's just start with a question that I think many of us have probably felt at some point. Why is it that the more you seem to understand something, the less you feel heard? It's a really strange and isolating paradox, isn't it?
And look, if you've ever felt this, you're definitely not alone. It's a common experience. For people who really invest time in thinking, whether it's about their job, a hobby, or just the state of the world, they often find that it leads to fewer conversations, not more. That clarity you work so hard for doesn't always build bridges.
Now, right off the bat, I want to be crystal clear about what this is not about. This isn't about feeling intellectually superior or buying into that whole lonely genius myth. That's a trap. What we're actually talking about is a fundamental friction in how we all interact. That constant tension between real clarity and what just feels comfortable.
So here's the central idea we're going to unpack. Society often resists clarity and deep thinking, not because the ideas are factually incorrect, but because that clarity is destabilizing. It has a way of shaking the very foundations of what people believe, and in turn, who they believe they are.
To really get a handle on this friction, we don't have to look very far. History, it turns out, shows us a timeless pattern. And its verdict is, well, it's pretty unambiguous. Just take a look at these examples. We don't need to get bogged down in the details, just notice the pattern. Socrates wasn't invited to a friendly debate. He was executed for asking too many questions. Galileo wasn't praised for his discoveries. He was put under house arrest. Nietzsche, he was written off as a madman long before anyone took his ideas seriously. And Tesla, he was mostly ignored while other people got rich from his genius.
So what's the takeaway here? The pattern is pretty undeniable, right? History shows us over and over again that clarity is often punished in the moment. It only gets its reward much, much later, in hindsight, once the new idea is no longer disruptive or threatening.
Okay, so history shows us what happens. But why? Why does bringing clarity to a conversation so often feel like a personal attack, even when that's not the intention at all? For that answer, we need to turn to psychology. Think about this for a second, because it's a really interesting contrast. If we see someone with incredible physical strength, our typical response is admiration. Great wealth might inspire envy. But when we're faced with sharp intellectual clarity, the response is very often defensiveness. What's going on there? Well, a big part of the answer lies in what's sometimes called the mirror effect. When a clear thinker presents an idea, they're not just offering up some abstract concept. For the person listening, that clarity can act like a mirror, reflecting back their own unexamined assumptions, maybe their own logical gaps. And that feels intensely personal because our identities are so wrapped up in what we think we know.
And get this, this isn't just about hurt feelings or ego. It goes deeper. It's biological. When our core beliefs are challenged, it can actually activate the amygdala, the brain's ancient fear center. The reaction isn't logical. It's that primal fight-or-flight response. You have to remember, for most of human history, fitting in with the tribe was a survival strategy. Standing out, even intellectually, could be dangerous. That wiring is still in there.
So you've got this primal biological response happening. And then, layered right on top of that, our minds have this incredible built-in defense system that reinforces the resistance. Let's call them cognitive biases. And they're very good at locking the door on new, challenging ideas. Our minds have this powerful defense team, and here are 3 of its star players. First up, you have the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's where folks with the least amount of knowledge on a topic are often the most confident they're experts. Then there's the status quo bias. Our brains are just wired to prefer the comfort of what we already think, even if it's wrong, over the discomfort of a new truth. And finally, my favorite, the backfire effect, where, and this is wild, Presenting someone with facts that contradict their worldview can actually make them double down and believe in it even more strongly. And this is so important to grasp. The resistance we're talking about is often structural. It's hardwired into our psychology. It's not just someone having a bad day. And that's why just throwing more data or a better argument at the problem usually doesn't work. You're not just up against an opinion. You're up against the mind's own self-protection software. So with all this in mind, it's worth turning to philosophy for a moment. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer had a pretty stark diagnosis for what he saw as the unavoidable price of thinking clearly. Now, this quote from Schopenhauer, it's designed to be a little provocative, right? But the point he's making is profound. If you don't question things too deeply, the world can seem very simple, very black and white. It's the very act of thinking that reveals all the complexity, the nuance, the gray areas. And that can be a lonely place to be. But here's the thing. Schopenhauer's point wasn't to just throw your hands up in despair. His advice was to reframe the entire experience. He said you should see that solitude not as a punishment, but as the necessary space you need for clear thought to even happen. It's about finding companionship in ideas themselves, not just in other people. Okay, so understanding all of this, the history, the psychology, the philosophy, it's not a license to become bitter or arrogant. Not at all. In fact, it brings us to what might be the most crucial part of this whole discussion, the responsibility that comes with insight, and the proper way a thinker should orient themselves to the world. This really lays out the two paths you can take, doesn't it? The immature response to being misunderstood is to put on this armor of arrogance or contempt or just withdrawing completely. But the mature orientation, the one that requires real discipline, is patience, restraint, and a genuine humility. And this really gets to the heart of it. That insight you have, it comes with a responsibility. If you use your clarity without any humility, it's not helpful anymore. It's just a weapon. It's cruel. But on the flip side, if you just retreat into silence without any wisdom or compassion, that's not discipline, that's just bitter isolation. It's all about finding the balance. This is a really grounding thought. It's a sort of anchor. The whole point of thinking deeply isn't to win arguments or get likes. The work is internal. A truth is still true whether one person sees it or a million people see it. Its validity never ever depends on applause. And so we end here with this final thought, something to really sit with. If your journey into deeper thinking has made you more of a quiet person than a loud one, don't automatically assume that's a sign of failure. It might just be the opposite. It might be the quiet arrival of maturity.